Hi, welcome to Highland Cottage. I am Martha, and this is Highland Cottage, and I'm really excited to see you here today. If you are new, you are in excellent company because we are all new. It is a brand new channel. Even I'm new. As I said, I'm very excited to see you. I made coffee, I made tea because I wasn't quite sure what you drink. I think there's some Diet Coke in the fridge and some Gatorade, if that's what you want. So have a seat on the couch, and I'm going to tell you about 4 horror books and a thriller. The first book I want to talk about is Intercepts by T.J. Payne. This book was terrifying. It was. And I almost actually put it down because there was a scene in it. Wait, first let me tell you what it's about. That would be good. So there's this guy, Joe, who works at a facility. It's a secret facility. It's literally underground. And we're not quite sure who he's working for or with, but what they do in this facility is they practice experiments on people. And it is unclear what they're doing this for. I actually almost put this book down because these are not nice experiments. These are not ethical, and they're not entirely consensual, or we don't know if they're consensual or not, but they're not ethical. And I almost put the book down because there was a image that was just so awful. I was like, I need this out of my head. I shouldn't be reading this book. And so I put it down for a couple days, and then I picked it up again because I thought, okay, I can't stop thinking about this. Maybe there's going to be a method to this madness. Maybe it'll be worth it. And sometimes, the best way to get something out of your head like that is just to go with it and trust the author, that there is a point to this. And I'm very glad that I did, because this was one of the most satisfying endings that I've had, that I've read in a book in quite some time. So Joe works at this facility, and everybody there is very good at compartmentalizing because they have to be. They, in order to do what they do and have any semblance of sanity, they have to draw firm lines between all aspects of their life. And one day, those lines seem to start blurring, and his work life starts going into his family life. I think that this is absolutely a horror book. There is a little bit of gore. There is gore, and it's a lot of bit of gore, but the most horrific part is the psychological horror of it all. What they're doing to these people is awful. And what I found the scariest was there were moments where, here we are in this workplace where people are doing these terrible things, and at the same time, in this building there's like a break room, and they're having snacks, and they're having breaks, and they're surfing the internet like they're normal people. And at one point, they're 2 guys, and they're playing, like football with where you flick the little paper football through the goalposts, and they're doing this, and there's literally like a war crime happening over their shoulder, and they're just like, yay, because that's what they have to do. That's what they have to do to keep this whole system going. Anyway, Intercepts, it's very scary. I highly recommend it. I read Intercepts as an ebook. I tend to read all 3 formats. I do audiobooks on my commute, I do ebooks when I'm going to bed, and I do physical books when I'm relaxing on the couch. And I tend to have 3 books at once going. So that keeps it good for me. It keeps it fresh. So the next book I want to talk to you about that I read this February was Naomi's Room. This is actually only available in a physical copy. I don't know why that is. I've owned this book for a couple of years, but I did decide to pick it up, and again, I'm very glad I did. It's not very thick. It is 215 pages, and they're very quick 215 pages. I started this one night and put it down after about 20, and then the next night I just finished the rest of it because I had to know what happens next. So this is a story about a couple who live in England around the 1970s, early 1970s. They are an incredibly charmed couple. He is an academic. He works at Cambridge. They live in this beautiful house. She works at a museum. They're both very smart. They're both very attractive. They're having the best time ever. They have an adorable 4-year-old daughter named Naomi. On Christmas Eve, the husband takes the daughter, Naomi, in this little yellow coat. He takes her to a toy store in London. It's a big famous toy store. It's a special treat. And they get separated in the store and she goes missing. It is what happens for the next 40 pages or so is a harrowing description of the uncertainty and the grief and just the numbness of what it would be like for two parents to lose their child in this way. So because Naomi is little and, it's a horrifying situation, it becomes a national news story. And the photographers, the paparazzi, start following the family around to catch images of, the parents especially, but also their parents. And, there's an aunt and another little girl, and they're trying, to sell newspapers, and it's awful. So one day, while the couple is still in shock and just kind of wandering around their house aimlessly, they get a phone call from one of the photographers, and he says, "Hi, I've been taking pictures of you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I know I'm dirt, but I've developed them, and I've been taking pictures of your house, and there's some things in these pictures that you should probably see." So he comes and shows the father the pictures, and what happens next is insane. It's just insane. It's a very scary book. I normally don't get scared so much by horror books. I tend to find them comforting, little comfort reads. I don't read extreme horror, and this isn't extreme, but there was a part where I was reading this and I was sleeping, or my husband was sleeping next to me, and I heard this and I was like, "Oh my God, what the hell is that?" And I woke him up, and I was like, "Oh my God." So it turned out in his sleep, he was kind of, he kind of jerks in his sleep sometimes, and he was rubbing the table or something, but that added an extra layer of awful to this book. It was a great book, and this book came out in 1991, and so it has kind of an old-fashioned feel to it, especially since it's written about 1971, but it feels very gothic and modern gothic, I should say. So the next book I want to talk about is Beautiful Ugly. It is the thriller. It's written by Alice Feeney, and I read it as an audiobook. I listened to Richard Armitage read it. I love his voice. He just has this great voice. So it's the story of this best-selling author who is on the phone with his wife. She's coming home. He's about to get some really great news, and she's driving, and she says, "Wait, hold up, honey. There's somebody in the road. I gotta go see what's going on." And he's like, No, what are you talking about? Don't, just come home to me. And she says, "No, there's somebody in trouble in the road. I need to go find out if I can help them. If it were me, wouldn't you want some stranger to help me?" And he's like, "Wait, just," and she gets out of the car, and then she goes missing. And when he runs down, he finds the car, and he discovers that she's gone. You know, the food she was bringing home is in the front seat, but she's gone. And so his life falls apart entirely. He can't write anymore. He loses his home. He's drinking. He's always had a little bit of a drinking problem, but now he's really got a drinking problem, and he's living in a flea bag hotel. And he has the one thing that he has going for him is that he can write, but he's having a horrible case of writer's block, and he's trying to hide that from his agent, because he doesn't want her to drop him. So she says, okay, you know what? I have this house. I've inherited this house. It's on this beautiful island. Why don't you go take some time for yourself and finish the book? And he's like, yeah, I'll finish the book. And he hasn't started the book, but he's like, yeah, no, I can finish a book. And he goes to this island, which is gorgeous. It's in Scotland, or off the coast of Scotland, and it's breathtaking. And he's got this wonderful modern cabin. But the thing is that there's something off, and everyone on the island is acting a little weird. Like, it's just kind of suspicious. And then he also sees a woman who looks a lot like his wife. But, you know, that can't be. But what if it is? So the rest of the book is trying to figure out what's up with the island, what's up with that woman. It is delightful. And this book had an amazingly satisfying ending. I love Alice Feeney. I think this is the 4th book that I've read by her. I just think she's great. So I think this is my favorite of anything she's ever written. And it just came out. It might have come out at the end of last year or at the beginning of this year. And I'm going to find all the backlog for her because I like her a lot. So the next book is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. And I should admit, I was naughty because I started listening to this. I was on a long car trip, and I started listening to it, and I loved it so much that I had to keep reading when, even though the car trip was over and I couldn't really feasibly be listening to it anymore. I'm like, but what happens? I do that sometimes. It is not economically viable. I do not recommend it, and I feel a little naughty every time I end up buying more than one format. And I've never bought all 3 formats. I've never done that. Stuff happens, and I want to finish the book. So anyway, the reason why I want to finish this book, well, first of all, let me justify myself and say that in this book there are like newspaper articles, there's kind of multimedia things going on at various points, and it is, you know, a normal book as well. This book focuses on Stanislav Cordova, who, here he is on the cover of Rolling Stone, who is this director who is exceptionally famous, really well regarded as an artist, but his movies are so scary that the studios won't touch him anymore. They're afraid of him. He ends up creating his own movies, filming them at a studio in his estate in upstate New York. He has underground screenings. You know, there's one that happened in the Paris catacombs where an urban legend is people went insane after they saw his movies. They're very well sought after collector's items. His fans are rabid about him. He has absolutely a cult-like following. And in this book, there is a disgraced journalist who, and part of his downfall had to do with Stanislav Cordova. So when Cordova's daughter, Ashley. When Cordova's daughter Ashley is found in a heap at the bottom of a building in New York, and people don't know what happened to her. This journalist takes it upon himself to reconstruct the last few weeks of her life to find out if there was any sort of foul play, or if she has done this, if this is through an act of her own. Is this, what made her do that? The book goes into some very dark places. Parts of it are very funny. There are these two sisters who are having this legendary feud. He goes through, the interviewer talks to various actors who were in his movies. Some of them are very famous, some of them less so. And two of them are sisters that have this legendary, like Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, or Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine. And he even mentions them because he's like, no, it's just like them, but not them. So we meet both of these sisters who absolutely hate each other's guts, these women in their 60s or their 70s. And they hate each other's guts, and they're both very compelling characters. Anyway, the book itself there are moments that are very scary. Most of it is just a rip-roaring thriller, just a good old-fashioned detective story kind of thing. And then it goes bonkers into dark places. But I absolutely recommend this. I know that some people have feelings about the ending, and I can see why you might have feelings about the ending, but I like it. I like it. And a lot of what people will say is, I love this book until the last, X amount of pages, but I'm going to go with, I love this book, and I'm just going to leave it there. I think it's absolutely accomplishing what Pestle wants, and I think it's really quite beautiful in how it's put together. So the last book I am going to talk about, which was the last book I finished in February, is You Let Me In by Camilla Bruce. And I should say that if you have any special sensitivities or particular boundaries, I would look up this book, see if this is something you really do want to read. I would actually advise that for any horror book or any thriller book, but in this particular book, I'm going to mention it because it's all the boundaries. So, You Let Me In tells the story of this famous author who has gone missing, and a year after she is gone, her niece and nephew, who are the children of her estranged sister, get a letter from her lawyer, that says, hey, you can have the estate. Your aunt has left you her estate, which is not an insubstantial estate, if you go to her house and you read a manuscript. And in the manuscript, there will be a password that if you give me that password, I will, sign the estate over to you. So this book is what that manuscript is. So this is presumably what we're talking about, what is left on her study desk. And what's interesting, the reason why there's a family estrangement is that the author, when she was younger, was on trial for the murder of her husband. And she was acquitted, but at the same time, her psychiatrist was ready. He didn't have to do this as a defense, but he was ready to do this as a defense. He had written a book talking about how the author kind of lived in this fantasy world where she believed that she talked to fairies and was friends with fairies, or at least had, interactions with them. And this was very much a part of her reality. And he posited that these interactions, this fantastical life, was a result of very bad trauma that she went through as a kid. And but from the point of view of the author, he's mistaken, because these things really did happen. And it is very dark. There's one particular fairy called the Pepperman, who is a monster, and is terrible, and that she's known since she was a very little girl. And he moves from this absolutely horrific monster in her point of view to so bad that she has to protect other people from him, to a protector of sorts later on. And the entire book is a metaphor, and it's also something that can be read at face value, and it tackles a lot of very complex issues that are hard to think about and hard to talk about, but it is very emotionally true, is how I would say. This is an incredible book. It is not for the faint of heart, but it is absolutely incredible. And it has, again, an amazing ending. It is so hard to land a good ending, but this ending is great. So that is 5 books. Thank you for staying with me through my first little muddle through, my stumble through. I hope you subscribe. I hope you like this video. I hope you pick up these books, because these books are really great, and stay with me, and I will show you what I'm reading next month. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye. I actually read in all 3 formats. I read ebooks, physical books, and audiobooks. And I actually tend to have 3 books going at once. I was going so well. It's okay. I could have just let it go, because nobody would have noticed that.